The OEM front sway bar mounts on these old Datsuns are a known failure point, especially when running a larger sway bar. If you want to see how you can fabricate your own much stronger front sway bar mount, keep watching. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the garage. I'm Brian, and we're going to be doing some more work on the Datsun 280Z today. So something I've been wanting to look at is the front sway bar mounts. Your front sway bar runs right across right here in front of your cross member and bolts to the bottom of the frame rails right here. Just two little 8mm bolts on each side. And there's a somewhat common problem with these when you start cornering hard, especially if you upgrade the sway bar, put a stiffer sway bar in, it can rip these mounts right out. And I obviously don't want that to happen, and I'd rather fix it now while we're, doing all this other repair and everything before the car gets on the road, just because it's easier. So what we're gonna do is I went on Amazon, I bought this cheap scope, just plugs right into your phone, just like that. It was like 20 bucks, 25 bucks, something like that. I messed around with it a little bit. It seems to work pretty well. So what I wanna do is we're gonna pop this rubber piece out right here. It's just a plug, and we should be able to see down in the frame rail right there and see what that mount looks like. I have a feeling, from what I have seen in research I've done from other people, is that bracket that the nuts are welded to and the nuts themselves are probably quite rusty. And that might be why people have an issue with the sway bar mounts just pulling out. So let's pop this rubber plug out, throw our scope in there, and see what it looks like. So let's see if my theory is correct. So just getting this in there right now, I can see that's one of the nuts for the sway bar itself. And the other one should be right about there. Yep. We're looking at right there is the back or the bottom inside corner of the frame rail. This goes up the frame rail saw inside edge right there. That's the bracket we're looking at with the bends in it. It's got surface rust on it for sure. But over here, yeah. Over on this edge, let me bend this camera a little bit more so we can get in there. All right, yeah, so this is the outside edge, like right here. And you can see it is pretty scaly. That rust is, pretty nasty. That it looks like basically that bracket on the outside edge is completely rusted away. It's a bit hard to get it down to this edge, but yeah, there's a bunch of rust there. I think it's got to be worth cutting that open and replacing that at this point. This is the easiest it's going to be to replace. If I have issues in the future with sway bar bolts pulling out and everything, I'll have to fix it then. I'll have to cut everything open, after the car's done and nice and painted and undercoated and all that stuff. Won't have it on the rotisserie. So I definitely think it's worth cutting this open and remaking that so we know that there's not going to be any issues. Well, to be honest, I expected it to look worse than this when I cut it open. So it's definitely rusty, right? It's obviously rusty, but I expected there to be more rot. It actually looks pretty nice. Besides the surface rust, of course. So that loose, scaly stuff that we found, or that we saw on the camera, I vacuumed all that up, and that was from somewhere else. I am going to stick that scope up in further because this right here, where they've got this strengthening piece for where the crossmember bolts welded on, the sheet metal behind that can also rot, just like this piece here. So I want to make sure that piece doesn't need to be fixed also while we're right here. But like I said, I'm surprised that it's not worse than this in here, and now I'm second guessing myself on whether we should fix it. But I've already got it cut open. I've already got some metal and everything to build a new bracket. Let me think on that for a minute. All right, we are going to continue on with replacing that. I think it's the best idea. And one reason is I'm gonna upgrade the bolt size. So originally those sway bar mounts are just a little 8mm bolt. I'm going to upgrade it to a 10mm bolt, which will also help strengthen it up and reduce the chance of that pulling out, even if it's not because of the rust that's in there. So I did poke it with a chip and hammer, and it's solid. Everything's solid, and it probably could be cleaned up, but it's definitely best, especially where I've already cut this hole, to just cut it out and replace it. Let's just get it done. So right here, you can actually see they pinched that bracket in between this sheet metal that comes down and 90s out and the bottom of the frame rail. I don't know why, but that's how they built it. And it's spot welded. There's like 3 spot welds here. There's some back there. I'm not sure if there's any more here. Probably not. Because it really just needs to hold it in place right until you tighten the sway bar down, and then that's where all the strength's going to come from, is the bolts clamping everything together. But I don't know. To be honest, that seems like a bad idea to do that, because no matter what you do, I mean, you can fill it with seam sealer, right? But you're going to have some gaps. It just creates a place for an opportunity for water to get in, and obviously we don't want that. So just another questionable decision by Nissan. I'm not sure why. I don't even know what the point even is doing it like that, but that's how they did it. So this little piece has to come off, like I said, and then we'll cut the spot welds for the actual bracket, and that should pop right out. In instances like this, sometimes it's easier to just grind the metal around the spot weld away. Now let's pop our spot welds off that backside. I think there's 4. There's definitely 2, but we'll see. We'll cut the first 2, see if there's more, and then I'll show you guys in case you have to do this. You can easily see where these spot welds are. All right, got it out. There was a lot more spot welds than I first thought. So you do got 4 in the back where they weld it to the inside of the frame rail. There's 2 big ones on bottom. I ended up drilling up through the bottom, and we'll just fill those holes in after. And the spot welds that pinched, you know, right here, the 3 layers actually went all the way through. So I had to drill those also. And then there's even 2 on the top of the frame rail, which I'm surprised, to be honest. This is looking way better than I anticipated. I think I might clean this up with the sandblaster and see just how bad it is. To be honest, I mean, there's a little bit of pitting on there, but not much at all. And maybe we'll just change the nuts and not remake the whole bracket. Let's see, I'm gonna clean this up. All right, I went and had some lunch, thought about it a little bit. I'm just gonna make a new one. By the time I clean this all up and make sure it's good to go, I could have just made a new bracket, and then it'll be 100% fixed. No, there's no issues. And you know, if I spent the time cleaning this up and there happened to be some rust holes and thin spots, I'd have to fix it anyway or build a new one. So we're just gonna go make a new one. I've got this 3" by 1/8" plate here, and it should be just the right size to make a new bracket. All right, cut myself a few pieces here. Basically the bottom piece here, the back piece here, the top piece here. This piece is, I kept 3 inches wide. We'll trim the edge off after. This piece is approximately 2.5 inches tall, and this piece I just did 1 inch. I went 4 inches wide with this, which is wider than this piece was. I figure, you know, a little bit more width isn't gonna hurt anything. It'll actually make it a little stronger. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put these in the car and tack them in place in the car. That way we know we get all the angles, which everything should be 90 degrees in theory, but you never know. So we get all the angles and everything set exactly where it needs to be, so when we go to actually put it in after it's fully welded, it's not warped or anything like that, and we gotta mess with it after that. So let's go do that. And I did already throw a bunch of rust encapsulator in there and clean that up with the sandblaster and everything. So this is all pretty much good to go. All right, now that we got this in here, tacked in place, we need to add a little bit of strength to this. The original bracket's got these bends in it, which gives this piece strength. It's just stamped steel, obviously, so the strength of this piece comes from these bends. Right now, there's not a whole lot of strength here besides just your weld. So I cut up a bunch of these gussets. They're just gonna slide in here, something like that. One in the middle and one on each end. So it basically mimics this. They had one in the middle and it's bent up on the end to give it some strength. So yeah, these will strengthen this piece up a ton. We'll get these tacked in place and then pull it out and fully weld everything and it should be good to go. So there we go, got that all welded up, right? I ground down the edges, so it looks nice. It's still very hot, so I don't want to grab it, but let's go see if it still fits in the car, make sure it didn't get really warped. Look at that. Fits right in, perfect. So, that's ready to go. However, a couple things before we actually put it in there permanently. We obviously need to attach it to the car, right? So what I'm gonna do, we have holes in there on the top end, on the bottom, here, you know, and up there where we drilled out the spot welds. I don't have any in the back because I drilled through the actual bracket. I think the best thing for me to do is to plug weld that, and I'm gonna do maybe a couple seam welds on the side. Probably would be a good idea, right? But for the most part, we're gonna plug weld that in. So I'm gonna drill probably 4 holes in the back, just like they had it before. And then other than cleaning up my paint here, probably ought to redo my rust encapsulator in here, just because I've been putting that piece in and out, it's getting scratched up, right? And then we'll have to grind down around where the spot welds are gonna be, just so that we can then put weld through primer on so we can actually weld it in place, right? Also, I'll probably prime and maybe paint that, although there's not really any point. Yeah, no, we're also gonna throw some weld through primer on that thing too. All right, it's time to put it in for the final time. We still got to weld the nuts in place. I wanted to do that right at the end so that I know nothing moves and my holes don't get misaligned. So we're going to use the front sway bar bracket right now so that we know that these bolts are lined up perfect. And I've got this C-clamped right to the back. That way I know that it's right up tight against it. We don't have a little gap there because that's not what we want. So, all right, let's go plug weld that backside there so we can get this out of the way. All right, we got it all welded in. It's all fully welded. I did a little bit of stitch welding around the inside, although it's quite hard to get in there just because I physically can't get the welder in there. Is what it is though. We're all plug welded. I smoothed it all out, ready to go. It's completely done. The only thing we got left is to stick this piece on the outside, right? I already cut this piece. It's ready to go. I even put the hole back in so I can, still put that rubber plug back in there so that when I'm ready to do the internal frame coating, I have access, can easily get that in there and spray that stuff. So we got to get this welded on. Now you might notice that I left this piece all the way up to the edge, and I said I was not going to do that and didn't understand why Nissan did it. Why I might have thought of why. You might first think, like I thought before, just end it back here behind the sheet metal piece, then you don't have to come here and pinch this down around it and leave a little air gap there where moisture can get in. What I believe the reason is it's actually going to make this stronger, because if you have this pinched underneath this piece right here, then you got all of this sheet metal up here keeping this from trying to flex up this way, this piece here, just to keep it a little bit stronger. I mean, does it really do much? I don't know. But I think that might be the reason. So I figured I'd keep it like that. So we got that just where it's going to go right now. We'll weld this in and just form that down around there. Get it all tacked in. And then I got a little bit of excess here. We'll just trim that off after. So yeah, let's get to it. the side is all done, all back together. Can't even tell if this was cut out. Maybe it's not that good, but definitely will do the job. So let's go jump on the other side and see what that side looks like. No matter what it looks like though, I'm replacing it because I want both sides the same. This side looks almost perfect. If I had seen this side first, we probably wouldn't have done this project at all. But, like I just mentioned, since I did the other side, I want this side exactly the same. So we're going to do this side too. By the way, I kind of mentioned it before, but behind here, where the sheet metal is, I did stick my scope in on the other side in there to get a good look at that, and it looks fine on the other side. I'm sure it's fine on this side too, especially with how clean this looks. But yeah, I am going to go, and I'm going to change that, and then I will catch back up with you guys. And there we go. This side's all done. Was this a totally necessary project for the 280Z? That's questionable. But was it a waste of time? I don't think so. There wasn't as much rust in there as it originally looked like on the camera, right? But there was rust. And no matter what I did, how much of that internal frame coating or cavity wax I sprayed in there, it wasn't going to coat all of that. It would have eventually gotten to the point where it was going to be an issue. And now it's just stronger, period, right? We've got a lot thicker metal for the actual bracket. We upsized the bolt size from 8mm to 10mm, so that should eliminate any issue with the front sway bar mounts pulling out, hopefully. Overall, came out very good. This side went way quicker than the other side, because the other side, I had to design it, had to, figure it out as we were going. This side, I was able to bang it out. Took me way less time to do this side, and that's usually how it goes, right? A lot of the fabrication time taken up isn't necessarily in the actual fabrication work. A lot of it is in the designing, the test fitting, the grinding, making everything fit perfect. If you can replicate that for the other side or whatever, if you get multiple or something, your time's cut down drastically once you have a plan. As far as what's next, not 100%. Oh, we got to do one thing though. Let's get this car out of the way. And let's check something else off. So on the list, we're gonna do a little bit with the gas door, roof windshield frame. I have a tentative plan with that. So we're gonna hold off on that, and it's not gonna hold us up with the 2JZ swap. I can start that stuff, if it comes time before touching that rust, because obviously that's not gonna have anything to do with the swap. There's a little bit behind the dash and the cowl, just a tiny little couple spots I need to take care of, and I have to cut this framework out anyway. So we're gonna need to do a little bit of touch-ups. Yeah, right there. There's a spot right there. Not really sure why it's rusted. Oh, yes I do, because there's another plate in this side. Other side is not like that. Yeah, so since there's a little bit of a plate right there, I'm assuming it got moisture in between them, rusted the inside out. Anyways, what else we got? Front fenders. We know we got to do those lower part of the front fenders. Again, not an issue because I can do that at any time. Or I don't need it on the rotisserie at all to do that front fender work. So not worried about that right now. The hatch opening edge, we will be doing that. So maybe we'll do that somewhat soon. Maybe next time. We got the side marker holes that are going to be done. I'm deleting the side markers because they're ugly. Thought about doing some sort of side marker from another vehicle or something that might be more contemporary, more modern looking, I guess is the word I'm thinking of, because those old ones do just look old. So that's why a lot of people get rid of them. I might find something else that would fit good. I've got a couple ideas, But either way, we're gonna fill in those holes, and if we make new ones, they're gonna be totally different shape anyway. We wanna reinforce the shock tower plates. There's well-done plates that actually sit on up here, and to strengthen this top part, because this can flex. And I don't have it on the list, but and this is gonna be something towards the end. Gonna be stitch welding everything. I know I've mentioned that before. And we're also gonna be doing a delete of all of the extra brackets and holes in here. Like this stuff was for the stock math, I think. And we got other stuff over there that we're not gonna need with the 2JZ in here. So we're gonna clean up the bay and get rid of all that stuff. But that'll probably happen after the 2JZ swap, so that I know everything that has to be done at the bay. But anyways, enough rambling. Yeah, happy with how this one turned out again. Everything's been going great lately. I've been very happy with how I've progressed as far as sheet metal work. It's really not as bad as most people think once you get some experience. We'll see how much body filler is required once we get to that point. Maybe it's way worse than I thought, but I don't think we're gonna have any super huge issues like that. But yeah, I'm probably gonna end the video off here. Next video, we'll jump into something, one of those things on the list probably. And just like usual, leave some comments, hit the like button, hit the bell notification if you haven't, or if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Helps out immensely. And I'll see you in the next video.